Welcome to XReality Podcast. I am the host, Dominique Wu.
And I'm co-host Christine Ingaldson, also known as Flutter.
And I'm just playing ukulele because to be silly. And a good intro. My name is Paul Hoover. I'm the guest today.
Yeah, each week we will have conversations with industry leaders to explore the unexpected connections and opportunities between diverse sectors and the world of spatial AI and XR. Today, our guest is Paul Hoover. Paul has a mission to live on the cutting edge of technology and steer human-computer interaction toward the preferred future. Since 2003, Paul has been at the forefront of innovative computing technologies.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. Yeah, I've been a while in this industry. Yeah, I think I started back at Tablet PC in 2003. So that was, oh no, how many, 21 years ago now. And I was just a little guy, didn't know anything about interaction design or product design. But yeah, that was fun. I learned so much at Microsoft over those, I guess, 3 years being a contractor and then 5 years full time there. But yeah, what do you want to know? What do you want to hear?
Yeah, what's your journey of being where you are today? We saw like from your background, you worked for Microsoft as a UX team, and since the beginning, you've already doing a lot of prototyping, more like a spatial types of like a user interface.
I'll start at the beginning.
Yeah,
always a good place to start. Let's see. I guess if we're talking about XR and immersive technology, yeah, the first time I ever saw anything that was like that was at the Pacific Science Center in Seattle when I was probably like, I don't know, 16 or 17. This is probably like 97 or 96, back in like the first wave of VR, or maybe that's the second wave if the first wave was like either Ivan Sutherland's wave. So in the 90s, 20 or 30 years later, yeah, I went to the Science Center as a kid and I saw this massive, VR thing you put on your head and you stand in this orb kind of, ring and you walk around and it was just, super low poly, just a little city that I was in. And then I think you could fly as like on a little airplane or something. Yeah. And I was, it was horrible user experience and everything, but you could be transported into another place. So that was just mind blowing. And then they also had these screens that had shutter glasses that would be tracked. And they had a 3D mouse at the time, which I've never seen since. I don't know what this product was, but they had a 3D mouse that was tracked in space. And then they had your head tracked. So you could actually like move your head through this 3D world looking at just a normal screen. And then you could do 3D sculpting with the mouse on like a virtual lathe, and you could draw in the air. And I was, this is the 90s, and I was just like blown away. So ever since then, I was just always like in the back of my head, like, how do they do that? So I started drawing, stereoscopic pictures and crossing my eyes to see how that works. And could I, draw a cube from 2 angles and get it to turn into 3D? So, when I was working or when I was, at school, when I was done with my work, I would do that in in between the lines or in the margins. Anyway, and then, yeah, I kind of got into animation and computer programming back then. Back then it was Flash, Action Script. Did you guys ever touch Flash at all?
Yes.
Oh, yes, yeah. When I was at our center back in 2008,
okay.
It was Flash, but now it's kind of gone, but it's interesting to learn the timeline and coding. Yeah.
Yeah, very gone now, except I did maybe a year and a half ago, somebody contacted me and they were like, we're making this update to some major, MLB game or something. And we actually need someone to do Flash. And I was like, now? Like, what? Like, this hasn't died? I didn't even know you can install it somewhere. Anyway, so apparently it's still somewhere in the dark areas of the game devs. Anyway, but yeah, then yeah, I guess my first like job that had XR in it was, well, I was at Microsoft for a while, like you said. Then I went to Artifact, which is a design agency in Seattle. Um, and there, worked on with lots of different companies, with Samsung and Microsoft, and then one project we got was Intuitive Surgical. This was in, I think, 2014. And yeah, there. I don't know if you know the Da Vinci device. You guys know the minimally invasive surgical robotics thing? Okay. So anyway, for those who don't, you just, it's like a big VR headset, but it doesn't attach to your head. You just put your head in it like this. And then you have these little gimbals that you're doing the surgery with. And yeah, we went down to San Jose, where they are, somewhere around that area. And yeah, gave us the demo of that. And I was, basically transported into a tiny robot. And the little tiny robot had two eyes and lights and two little hands. And when I put my head in there, it felt like I was, I was actually controlling the robot, and my hands look like robot hands. And yeah, so the surgeons do the surgery through this teleoperation type of thing. And most people think, oh, that's great, and everybody will be able to be on one side of the world and do surgery on the other side of the world, but that never happens. The whole point is to have it be less invasive of a surgery. And usually the surgeon is the one who's actually inserting the robot arms and everything into the patient. And then they go over and then they do the surgery on the device. While usually there's another surgeon at the operating table doing the laparoscopic instruments. Anyway, but that was just wild, designing that, helping those guys design the next version of that. They were going from this 4-instrument layout where there's 4 incisions into the patient to just one, a slightly larger one that had 4 little hands that would come out. Very like Matrix robots. But they're robots for good. not trying to yeah, it's not maximally invasive, it's minimally invasive. So anyway, that was it was pretty crazy. This was before, I think this was in like the Google Cardboard time frame. And maybe the DK1 was just starting to come out. So to prototype that, I think that was my last Flash project I did, actually. So I just I did some After Effects and like made a stereo rig in After Effects and in Cinema 4D. But then for that, I actually coded a stereo 3D engine inside Flash to prototype it on a Google Cardboard. So that was pretty wild. And then, yeah, able to like start to understand how to use stereo vision as a design element, and all the things I thought would work at first did not work at all. Like, there were all these fun ideas we had where it was like, oh, maybe when when one of the instruments goes out of the field of view, we have these little bubbles appear, as it goes out, and maybe they get bigger, or like the radius changes as as it goes further out. But yeah, when we put it in stereo vision, it made no sense to change the scale of things without actually changing the location of it. So we had, iterated my way to what the final design was. And anyway, that was interesting. And this, yeah, so that kind of got my kid brain, who had been kind of tinkering with stereo vision stuff, from the 90s, got back to thinking about that again. And yeah, so we helped them on a couple of projects to help design a bunch of their concepts and new products. Yeah, and then let's see. I guess my next, and over the years, I had always, at least at Artifact and at Microsoft, I was always trying to work in emerging technology. So it was, what's the new technology that's coming out or could have an impact? And I would try to position myself so I'd be working there and trying to figure out like the best, the best design solutions for those products, and then kind of guide that towards the path, hopefully to a good path, to a good outcome for those technologies. It's easy to just let these things go where they want, and we can get unintended consequences sometimes if we don't think carefully about the implications of the technologies that we make. Anyway, I can just ramble on forever with my story, but yeah, I guess, do you want to hear more about Magic Leap or Oculus or any of that stuff?
Christine?
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Oh,
well, I just wanted to hear actually, because I like what you said about your concerns.
yeah.
So, yeah, what are your concerns? Yeah, what are those concerns that
Let's
you were
see.
talking
It
about?
really depends
There might
on,
be a lot, but go ahead. Yeah,
yeah,
maybe a
yeah, yeah.
current one would be a good, yeah,
Like, sure, a current concern with AI
yes.
is, I guess, it's consolidation of power. Is definitely a concern. Is that like, if we have all of this knowledge and computation and AI and thinking, and that one person can create and control, it makes it so it can be very imbalanced in terms of one person or one group of people controlling a lot of the market, a lot of people's attention. Yeah, I was just the other day I was reading this book, The Wandering Earth, by, and hopefully I'll get this right, Cixin Liu. Hopefully, I don't know. The author of The Three Body Problem. This is a crazy book that has like 10 different short stories in it. But one of the short stories has there's another planet that on this planet, the AI starts to take off. And what happens at first is, a small group of people, maybe 100 people, end up controlling most of the economy. And then, and the way they do it is they basically have infused their AI into their brains. So like they are almost a different species. And so they now can, outperform all the other humans on all levels. And then it just keeps going, like from 100 people to 20 people. And then it goes from 20 people to, and then eventually it just gets down to one person. And one person becomes basically immortal and controls the entire planet. And then it gets really weird. He basically says the whole planet is my property, and if you're gonna even breathe the air on my planet, you have to pay for it. So everybody gets put in these little pods, and then
Oh my God.
eventually he's like, I don't even want you on my planet anymore. So just I made you all these spaceships. Just go get in these spaceships and fly away and find another planet. It's gonna be great, but just not on my planet. So like that's like probably the worst outcome we could possibly have, that we're all herded into little pods. I don't think it'll ever get like that, but I do think there's kind of hints of that that could happen, where it's like, you know, um, a corporation, instead of having 10,000 employees, they have they have 3,000 employees, and they can do the job of 100,000 employees. And then what happens? What happens to all the other people? So I do like the notion that you can open source these AI tools. I think Mark Zuckerberg's right about this, that it's better to keep this as open as possible, while hopefully in a way that's not where like bad actors can't just abuse AI to do all these horrible things. So I don't know. I think that's that's the dichotomy or the paradox right now, is like you want to you want as many people out of access to these AI tools, but you want to do it in a way that's not harmful to other people, or doesn't make people who are, you know, able to cause harm or want to cause harm, give them these super tools to cause super harm. So I don't know. And we're definitely on this razor's edge here, walking towards the future. So I don't know. That's one issue with AI right now. And yeah, curious what you guys think on what a preferable outcome for that could be long term. I have some thoughts, but I don't know. Any ideas? No.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I am very agree with what you said, that in the future it will be one person control a lot of assets. And I remember I read something called Dyson Sphere. So which means that we will be able, because right now our civilization is still very low. We are digging down to the dinosaur born, like bones, and burn it and cause a lot of the pollutions. But in the future, we should be able to directly harness the sun, right? The solar system. So in order to do that, I think AI is more like you put all the entire humanity, the brands from the ancient to the recent, you put the entire humanity's collateral intelligence in your brand. It's like right now, actually, we are kind of like a Cyberman, but because of the laptop and also we have our mobile phone, it start getting closer to our brand. If you see like a desktop, it's still far away, but mobile is more closer to our body. It's like from the information to our brand, it's closer compared with the desktop. And in the future, it will be wearable, right? Like the AR glass. So it will be even closer from your eye to your brain. And if we later on doing non-invasive or invasive, it's just make the information of the entire humanity collateral information even closer or become part of your brain. So it's more like we are already a cyber person because we can easily get the access to the entire humanity's collateral wisdoms. So I can see this start happening. And personally, I think we live in the Earth, and according to Elon Musk's vision, that we should be a planetary species. So I think there are so many unoccupied planets. So we should just go out and not focus on that Earth one. I know Earth is very easy, very comfortable, but maybe we go out, and since we have a collateral wisdom, maybe we can start terraforming some other planet, and we can just go out, and at the end we will, like as a species, we occupy different planet as right now it's like a different I don't know continent. So I can see this happen, and maybe right now we are terrifying it, but maybe in the future it will be the norm, because I think I always believe that God create this world, and this world actually is a simulation. So I think we are following a certain pattern. And if you see, there are two types of physical laws. I mean, I don't know why we start talking about this, but
this is really interesting.
One is
I like hearing it. Yeah.
One is classic, like a Newton, right? Which is whatever law we follow. But there's another law, quantum physics. I find out that this world maybe is created by that one person. If everybody has different religions, maybe you can.
So you're saying God. we already
we are already in there, and we are the product. So God maybe is the Unity developer, right? And we are just the prefab variant of each different kind. For example, God create, or like creators create some template. We are just some variant, change some different parameters. Because you can see in any computing system, for example, if you play Super Mario, if Super Mario feels like I am trapped in the creator because there's a certain law, but there's outside this certain role inside this computing system, there's a role that beyond our imagination. So I believe quantum physics is probably applied to the law of our creators, which is God, whatever you believe. But the law of physics which we follow and all the planet follow is the classic roles, which is what the creator create us and trying for us to have some
that's what happens when
harmonies.
you click on the prefab and say like turn on physics.
Right. So that's what I believe. I believe whatever we are just the product. We are the Super Marios living in the 2D games. So it's already happening.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think in terms of let's see, lots of things to react to, but Christine, do you want to react to any of those things first?
I could say something, just quick, that I do think there's something beyond Earth, but something that's really important to me right now is connecting with our humanity and just remembering that we are part of Earth. And so using like AI as tools, but I don't want to replace humans. So I think in a lot of like the work that I like, the VR story game that I'm creating, and I just want the messages of remembering being a human and what does that really mean? And I love existential questions. So so I think just having that, being grounded, no pun intended, in the earth, but then also really having that imagination and of thinking outside of here, and what would it I just do think it's kind of cool to think about if other life in other places, because I do think it does exist and there's something beyond here, but I don't want to forget about being human. So that's something that's important to me. And using these things as tools, and how can we maintain our humanity while we do that? I just think that's a question to ask. Yeah,
it's a great point. Okay, so I guess if I can remember all the things you're saying, Dom. One, I think we should not make a Dyson sphere around our sun. That would be bad for the Earth. We need that sun thing. Maybe just a little bit cooling off, but like, I do like the idea. I almost like the Jeff Bezos's vision of space exploration better than Elon Musk's. I think it's cool to like go to Mars, but there's so many.
Venice. I remember Jeff Bezos trying to had an idea, which is putting a spaceship on top of Venice and trying to get everything like a very sufficient. I don't know, like
I don't know about Venice, but what I think his long-term mission or goal is to make these Dyson cylinders, or not Dyson, O'Neill cylinders. So they're like these huge space stations that have artificial gravity. He thinks that that's a much better and more human way to live in space than like trying to like change ourselves into a different environment, or try to change that environment into a different to try to change the environment of Mars or the moon into Earth. Like if you can just make one of these massive O'Neill cylinders and just spin it up, and we're talking like a mile long kind of thing, or multiple kilometers, then you can basically just build a beautiful garden slash, I think that some of the drawings that the guy did look a lot like Venice. Like, are these these were done in like the 70s or something.
I think I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, I do like that concept as well.
So my take on that, and this has nothing to do with XR, but like it actually has a little bit to do with XR. Is I think what we need right now is a bunch of startups to go figure out how to make lunar regolith into buildable material, like all the moon sand. And then all you have to do to get it in space on the moon is just slingshot it out into space. You don't have to have rockets or anything, because the moon, so if you could just get some materials that you could build on the moon, slingshot it out into space using like solar power. You could just have that on infinite repeat and just be like putting stuff out into orbit around the moon and start building these huge O'Neill cylinders. And then people could just, you know, build gardens, build forests and cities and these things out in space. And I think that's like a much easier sell for people of like, you get Earth gravity, you don't have to like go through this radiation belt to get to your destination, and it's beautiful rivers and you know, forests and all sorts of stuff. I don't know how you get all that stuff up there, but you probably seed it in some way. But anyway, I like that version of space future better, a little better than like everybody roughing it out on Mars. And like
you're selling me on this future.
And bone density going down, and we don't know if you can have kids out there because of the radiation, and keep us in the is it the Oort belt, or like what's our, not Oort belt, there's like the magnetosphere around Earth. Like
if
you can stay in that zone but have like these massive space stations, you can have billions and billions more people that won't overpopulate the Earth. Anyway, that's what I think is an awesome future for space exploration. And at one point I did make, and can I just like share videos? Like,
yeah.
Okay,
Please.
let me see if I can find it. I did at one point get really into stuff like this, so I started building some space station simulators in Unity. Let me find it really quick. Case studies. Actions. I'm just looking at my portfolio. Yeah, I didn't do a great job at it. So like, don't judge me too harshly. But I was basically just learning Unity better, or I think is better, and then and ChatGPT had just kind of come out, so I was just starting to play around with here, I'll mute that. So I was playing with different concepts. This one I liked the best, which was like this modular format where all these little you could basically launch each of those out into space on the new, you know, super heavy SpaceX Starship, but then you link them together, and then when you go inside, come on, stop talking, Paul, get inside. Then you take out the linkage, some of the linkages between, and you basically have this huge space station that you can walk around. Anyway, so I was starting to mess around with gravity in there and like what it feels like to, you know, to have this spinning station, and like if you throw things, does it fall down or does it fall sideways? And I don't know. It was fun to just mess around with for a little bit. But this I think would have made about like 1/2 gravity in terms of how fast it was spinning. Anyway, but yeah, I like that future. That's a fun one. Any hoozle.
That is fun.
But so yeah, that's where it came back to XR. So I think it would be if you could have a little XR or a little, you know, microgravity simulator where you could build out these worlds and experience them with other people and start messing around in there. I did actually build some of that in Shapes XR also. The Airbus recently made a concept that I think they engineered the whole thing and they're planning on putting it up on Starship. So here's their Airbus space station. And we presented this at Stanford at some event. So I did a funny thing where I got inside this little space helmet and talked to people in Shapes XR. But yeah, like there's how big the Starship is. Here's how big this thing is. And then I made a version on the inside where you can float around inside here and see how big it is. And when you're in VR, yeah, it's quite sizable. Like I wouldn't mind being in this thing for a while, and all just from one blast off from the Starship over there. Yeah, once they get that thing cooking, there's going to be a lot of disruption from SpaceX and all the people shooting stuff up into space. But probably be another 5 years now.
That's all.
No, actually, it'd probably just be another 6 months at the rate they're going. Anyway, we went deep on space.
I love it. I love it.
And then you went all on like simulation theory, and that's fun. It makes me think of like, okay, so I've been working on this little game, and yeah, Christine, I'd love to hear about your game. My game is all about it's about AI agents that have kind of stories built into them that you interact with, and they can interact with each other. So I made this comic book a while back, and I won't go into the whole pitch because I don't want to give everything away. But yeah, it's basically like, a lady, she, one of her, her mom dies, and so she ends up like in her grief, she trains an AI on all of the videos that have ever existed on her mother. And this was like, I don't know, 2020. So like right when, or I don't know, before LLMs were like a big thing, I guess. And yeah, so she like starts making this little AI and talks to it, and then embodies it in this Portobello mushroom, and creates and puts it inside, puts kind of the brain in there. So now the little guy named Portobello has a body, and then they start hanging out, and I won't go into all the plot and all the things, but I don't know, I just love this idea that like you can just take either a story or an idea or some information and embody it into an AI that has some sort of agency, and then take that and bring it into the world in some way through augmented reality. That, I don't know, yeah, it's always fascinating to me trying to like bring these almost inanimate objects to life. And now I feel like, or I was just gonna like finish that comic book, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. I could just do the next chapter. But I was like, but actually, I could just actually make this thing now. Like, the AI has advanced so much in 4 years that it's actually possible to make this experience where you can, create these bots and then converse with them and go, release them into the wild and be able to capture them and, I don't know, interact with them, or make these little simulated realities for them. That I think maybe is the next toy almost, which is making these, having these little agents and setting up worlds for them to talk, to talk to each other, to talk to you. And yeah, and maybe that's what we all are deep down on the metaphysical world. We're just toys for God that he's playing with. And we're just he just keeps hitting copy paste every time a baby is born or something. But anyway, that's what I've been noodling around with. And like in terms of the mechanics, I'm thinking more about like making it feel like magic, like you're doing magic spells, so like the magic spell kind of interactions that I've been toying around in Shapes XR have been part of that. So we'll see if I can get some time and other people to help me work on it. Everybody's busy though, and I'm busy too, but I don't know, and this is a moment for me where I can take a little break and put some time towards this. So we'll see.
Yeah, actually, maybe go and pitch to investors and see if you can get fundings. And actually today, I'm going to show there's a kind of a support plan from Meta. It's called Introducing the Meta Quest Lifestyle App Accelerator. Let me post this link on the chat. If, for example, like if you have your, I can see you apply the spaceship, the space, the concept to this
Yeah.
program, which means that if you are doing non-game or gamify any AR, VR types of apps, then do the application and put a pitch deck, and maybe somebody from Meta will help you. And the deadline is October 15th. So
Oh,
just
okay.
just do a deck. And if you don't know where to download the template, I can share with you. If you type like 10 pages for pitch deck, and
Yeah.
there's like there's a template, you just download and fill it out. It should be fine. Yeah. So yeah, this
Okay.
is just
Yeah,
for
maybe I
your
will.
information. Yeah, I will
Yeah,
do it as well. So yeah.
you're gonna do it too?
I will do like a turn literature into the immersive game. Like I recently do turn the Raven, Edgar Allan Poe's poem into an interactive game. And later on, I'm thinking about putting all the important literature in different era, and put together and potentially for high school or college. And it's more like a public domain. So
Cool.
see if there's any investment or something, but that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah,
That's
because
awesome.
people are focusing on STEM right now, and I was thinking about after STEM maybe literature. So this is probably like a little bit further away, because I know like right now people don't really read books; they swipe TikTok and short videos. But I think at some point we need the literature because it's the assets for the entire humanity. And I know people now, they don't really like to read long format books. So maybe make it a game. Yeah. I don't know. It's just my
These
thought.
things are
Yeah. Right.
I love your idea, Dominique. Yeah,
yeah.
I
But
really do.
but
Yeah.
I do think one thing that people long form people listen to is like books on tape or podcasts is and like this discussion we're having. I do feel like there is that's like the new version of books to me. So even for this concept, I was thinking one of the ways that you would interact with these agents is like you're on a walk and you're just listening and you're just talking to them, and that would be maybe one of the primary ways that you hear these stories from these characters is they just are telling you the story, and you can talk to them and ask questions and I don't know, I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I
Putting these
actually
stories.
I am turning Edgar Allan Poe as an AI assistant in the game. So
Oh
you can
yeah.
ask questions, but every time when he answer, he will say something like I don't know, the old English. So I was like, wow, this is wild. It's like, yeah, it's like all over the place, but it's pretty much using some AI kind of meta-human types of system
Yeah.
using
Interesting.
11 Lab, OpenAI,
Yeah.
and Ready
Yeah.
Player Me. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's kind
Cool.
of like a pretty interesting. Yeah.
I just need to take one little break and I'll be right back.
And so you would pick a little story to, while you're in this library area, you would pick a story to go through, and it would only be like 30 minutes. So it's for people that, don't want to play like hours of a game, but just want to get a nice, kind of like watching a show, a television show, so I imagine people binge watching, no, pulling books off the shelf in this library and then going through these little stories. But I'd like them to be fables, because I think just having some kind of meaningful message or story in there that's not giving you an answer, but posing a really good question. So, and
That
I
sounds
like
cool.
animals, and I think fables use animals a lot. So I like animals. Right now, speaking to robots, robots are a big, are a main characters in my current story. So that's interesting. Just kind of, I like what you were saying, Paul, about, putting this, all of this information into something inanimate that, yeah. And so mine's kind of like the opposite direction, where they're remembering being an animal, but they're now a robot and they can't escape
Oh,
that.
okay. Yeah,
So
that's funny. Yeah, mine is more
yeah,
like you remember you're being a human, but you're now this other thing. Um,
yeah,
and Yeah, and I've actually done some experiments with this where I've put some either fictitious stories or real stories into this bot or into this AI to see how it can react and how it can react with other people or with other bots. It's pretty fascinating how well
yeah,
the AI can figure out its place in the story, what character it is, and like tell the rest of the story. Sometimes it gets it wrong, or it makes stuff up, but sometimes it gets it very right, which is crazy. The Yeah, I was just thinking uh, regarding preferred outcomes versus not preferred outcomes for AI, and I wrote this article a while back called "How Attractive Should We Make AI?" Let me see if I can find it. Um, oh yeah, here it is. It's I didn't try to like share it or anything, so I don't think I even got any views on it. But wait, where's my? Oh yeah, here it is. Um, this was back in like 2018, back when I was working on Magic Leap or right afterwards. And Magic Leap's version, their AI assistant was this person, Micah, which was just like, I was like, why? Why do you need to make this very realistic, like model woman girl as the AI that you interact with inside this operating system or this, world. So yeah, and it was just very much like Blade Runner,
yeah.
just like what are we doing here? So what I'm doing on next Thursday, I'm doing a talk inside Shapes XR. Here's the little place where everybody's gonna sit. Here's where I'm gonna be in the middle, and then I made this presentation of this concept, and then how different companies have been doing it. Like, Cortana was this person, this overly sexualized AI, but now they've made it into these abstracted forms. And like, what is yeah so the my question is like, what should AI be like? And maybe it's similar to Dom, to like your characters that you're interacting with in your story or in your like, should it be a person? Should it be an abstracted form? Should it be like, what do you get when it's a person? Or maybe there shouldn't be any form, like, her, it's just a voice, or like Jarvis. Um, so then anyway, I've been fascinated with this like multi-user AI, where like, in the future, if we each have our own AI talking in our ear, and we really have a conversation with each other anymore, if you don't know who I'm talking to, or if it's always bleeding information into you. So wait. So yeah, my question that I'm going to be posing to people is, what if there's an AI that's multi-user and it can actually be part of a bigger conversation and can understand the social etiquette, and and what if, while in this presentation, this AI can live next to me while I'm giving it. And anyway, now I'm just practicing my talk with you guys.
Oh no, this is a great talk. I like
Yeah.
This is
this.
great.
Yeah.
This is great.
But yeah, and actually the answer, I think, is like what Microsoft did. They, not Cortana, but like they did this really cool mixed reality or Windows holographic or whatever they call it, for HoloLens. They had this AI that followed people around and allowed them, and it had eyes, but it wasn't like a human form. So the idea was like, if you have this, just something that has enough, like it's spatial, but it can make eye contact and you can talk to it. And if it can exist in a social situation, then like if I'm looking at it and talking to it, everybody else in the room knows I'm talking to it, then maybe then you can have the benefit of having an AI that's with you in a conversation, and you can access your, I think what Elon Musk called it was your cloud cortex, instead of your outer cortex of your brain, it's the cloud cortex, being able to access all the information, but in a way that's, social with other people. So like they understand if I'm talking to the AI, then I'm talking to it. I say, Alexa, blah, blah, blah. Uh, and maybe then if it's talking to a particular person, it can make eye contact with them and it can follow them around. And anyway, so that's just kind of the start of the talk. So I've been thinking about this for a little while, and I do think there's there's some starting to be some interesting examples of this, like Wisp from Liquid City, I think is a good example of this, where they're like embodying these little characters like this with AI, or with, the ability to talk to you and access information, but in a way that's spatial. So I'm excited about a world where it's like, there's lots of these little, creatures. Wait, stop sharing. Around, and you're able to talk with them. They're able to work with you to do different things. And and hopefully they're multi-user. Like they're not just putting you in your own little bubble. But I think that is definitely a negative outcome for AR, is because it's and VR is because they're, the things are, or the displays are inherently private. No one can see what you see. So if you are in your own little reality, then you can't have a shared reality with anybody else. So that's an issue. So I think I wrote a different little paper on that a while back called the Mirror World Bill of Rights. And I was trying to get the point across that if you want to have a shared experience with somebody in VR or AR, there needs to be some sort of open protocol to make that happen. So if somebody's on, which is not happening at this point. I mean, the web AR is sort of getting there a little bit, but Quest, like if somebody's on a Quest and somebody's on Vision Pro, there's no way you can have a shared experience with them. Maybe, through definitely not if you're in the same room with them. Maybe through some sort of web interface, but like I think the world I want us to live in is like, no matter what device we have on in the future, whether it's like the Ray-Ban Stories, part 5, these guys, and the Magic Leap. I'm just gonna put on all the things. Wait, let me see. I always have like a collection of everything. And like somebody else has the Magic Leap 6 next to them. Hopefully they can just say, hey, let's hang out and like play a game together. And there's some way that they can do that. But I don't see that probably happening because everybody wants their little kingdoms, and nobody wants to everybody wants to tax their little fiefdom for their for their OS. Apple wants to control their little area. And do you think Meta has been probably the most open, and maybe Google too?
I was surprised that Mark Zuckerberg allows people to download to their local computer. I was thinking about there might be some code to lead back to the system, but it's just like wow, how it's a lot of money to develop a model. And I really appreciate that you can download to you can get the model and download to your local computer. Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah.
But I think with AR and VR, I think there needs to be another, maybe it's open the open web, and that's the way to do it. But I don't know. It's so limiting what you can do, being on the web versus, and on your phone versus what you can do with these client applications. Anyway, now I'm just going down another little avenue. What else do you guys want to chat about?
Yeah. So, what are you reading? Anything you recommend?
Well, I guess, yeah, I was reading this guy. I got about halfway through it, and I do recommend this book. It's really interesting. I read through the Three Body Problem also recently. All three books are very good and very different. The last one, it just goes so far into the future. It's like it's just wild. But I read a lot of like science fiction books, but not a lot of ones from like China or Asian descent. So yeah, that one was a little eye-opening for that culture for me too, which was cool. But yeah, the Three Body Problem, that guy loves just killing everybody. He's a big fan of like the end of everything in as many ways as you can think of. You get 10 of them in this book. Only one maybe or two in the Three Body Problem. Anyway, but yeah, that's fun. But the other one that I read recently was called Inspired by what's his name? Marty Kagan. Yeah, that one was really around like product management, which is definitely a growth area for me. And yeah, that was very inspiring to read that book, and just see all the ways I've been doing it wrong over the years. And then I'm like, oh,
You are very humble. You did a lot of things right.
Well, I know, but like I've always been a designer, product designer, and product managers, they have pretty different job to a product designer or like a UX designer or interaction designer. So times when I've not had a product manager, I've had to kind of jump in and do that part of the job. And yeah, so that's where this is like I got my training for that back in like 2005 or something, back when I was at Microsoft. And times have changed quite a lot since then. So it's good to see some of the more modern thinking. This book's even a little old, but it's one of the classics. So I hear. So that was
It's called Inspired.
Inspired by Marty Kagan. Yeah.
Marty Kagan. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm learning. I was learning like a management or leadership through just like a self-taught. I create a community, and I also run agency in the past, like a Hummingbird Stay, and I hire like a 5 to 10 like a my previous students like a yeah. So it's more like a learning and fail. I fail a lot, and I even learned how to like the last exit meeting, how to tell people you are fired, but in a nice way. So yeah, I learned everything, and I even Google it. It's normally like, oh, I don't know what to do, and I do it while I'm Googling. So I'm like, now I think when I look back to all the leadership and management, I think it's just different. It's like for talents, it's more about myself. How can I perform the best? But for management and leadership, how can I make the team all motivate and work towards the same goal? I don't know. Yep. Maybe that's too simple, but I'm still learning. I'm not the best person, but I think, for example, like I started teaching at Kenyatta, I would say a few months ago, and that was like a Spark AR was my first class. And I would say that everything was totally unexpected. I created a curriculum, and at the end, I didn't follow anything that I created. And I just follow the flow, and everybody has different spectrum. It's like some student, they are just so good, and some student, you just need to drag them and they disappear. So yeah, it's like also like being a teacher is like managing a team, and at the end like the team wants to see the result. So I was like, we have to make a really good presentation. I'm just like a first time, I want to leave a good impression. So
Yeah.
it's like managing a team, and even like the people you were like, hey, you just have to show up, but I am trying to package it in a nice way. So it's like, I don't want to say the manipulate people, but it's like doing something for them for good and trying to lead them to a good direction. Just like trying to use every single words in my brain, trying to make the person motivate towards the direction. I don't know. It's kind of like that for me. Yeah.
Fun. Yeah. I mean, yeah, teaching is it's fun. I've done some teaching over the years. Yeah, the probably where I did the most was at the elementary school level. My yeah, where I was I don't know about where you guys live, but here in the public schools, there's no art program in the elementary. It's just up to the parent teacher association to run that and teach art and sometimes even some of the science, but not so much that. But so I started just teaching art, and going to class, and that was fun with the little elementary kids. But then after a while, I realized that there weren't any after school programs either. So then I decided to start a whole after school program. So then we did, yeah. So then I because because I'm crazy, I decided to try to make a whole startup out of it too a little bit.
That's
So
great.
yeah, I had this I mean it's almost like an algorithm, but then I eventually, when I was at Artifact, we had somebody start coding up some of the back end to track these classes that the community would create, and then we would find curriculum or find people to teach them, and then we would get people to sign up for them, and then yeah, they'd meet for a quarter, and then they'd dissolve and go into the next thing. And yeah, we ended up, yeah, I forget how many thousands of kids we put through it, but
Wow.
I think we did probably like 20 classes, 20 or 30 classes, and then we had like yeah, I mean it's a pretty big school, but like in terms of kids in a class, I think there was a few thousand that we got through the program. And it was, yeah, and then I would go in and teach a couple of classes each week. It would be like animation, stop motion animation. I did like an inventing class where everybody was like it was called Invent the Future. I did some curriculum for like programming and with Scratch and those types of things. That was so fun. I just love seeing the students just get excited about stuff and be able to and I don't know, like I was, at the time I was doing workshops with adults and design workshops to like brainstorm ideas and get ideas out of these Fortune 500 companies. But then I would just basically applied those same workshop you know ideas and ways to work with kids. And yeah, they were able to almost like not outperform the adults, but like do the same things that the adults were doing. And it was like, it's pretty amazing to see just how amazing people are. And if you can get them together in a group and allow them to build off each other's ideas and critique each other and get people open to be able to receive and give feedback, just magic happens. Anyway, but yeah, that was fun. Did that for a good couple of years, and then yeah, the last teaching I've been doing is more like just here and there, like guest lecturing or substitute teaching at University of Washington, or but actually now I'm starting a little, Spatial Academy, I call it, as you might have seen. But like I was showing you, that's going to be my first lecture in there, and I'll probably record a holographic notes inside Shapes XR in that same space. So then if somebody isn't able to be there at the same time, then they can just go in there and watch me give the presentation asynchronously. So that I think that's like an interesting model for for education right now is you allow people to get together with VR devices and learn and give feedback in real time, but then also allow people to like but record that in the same place, in the same space, and allow people to learn at their own pace. Or even sometimes you do that learning first, the asynchronous learning, and then you come together and discuss it. Like they call that they used to call that the flipped model, the flipped classroom model back in like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. In the 2000s, that was the cool thing, or 2010s. Anyway, but yeah, education's fun. I would like to do that long term. It'd be fun to retire as like a math, middle school math teacher or something like that.
Yeah, I think
see.
the teaching is very inspiring because all the students they come up with like a different result, and it's satisfying to see like wow, there's an influence comes like from like what I've learned and passed to the young generation. It's very it feels really fulfilling. Yeah, that's the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Christine, do you have any questions?
Oh gosh, no, I don't have any other questions. I mean, I could ask it, but we could probably go maybe another hour if I ask a question.
Yeah, I know.
I was actually interested in the patents that you have on your website, but
yeah,
but
sure.
I'm like, am I opening up now another?
Oh, it's fine. I mean,
I want to hear about
most,
that. I was like, wow, 25 patents. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, most big companies, one of the things they're trying to do is get intellectual property and, protect themselves. Some of it is, it's almost like an arms race between big companies where, everybody's basically in violation of each other's patents. But if one company has all the patents and then another company doesn't have any, then it's imbalanced, and that nobody can can violate each other's patents because their lawyers will come after them. So I feel like sometimes these companies they do all these patents in order to kind of deter the other companies from from thermonuclear war between the lawyers. So sometimes these patents are like that, where they're maybe they weren't used in a product, but they were like trying to build up the war chest. Other ones though, like I think, yeah, were pretty useful. Like there was one for the intuitive surgical robotics. We had this concept of using it, like when I first came to the program, they had this they called it the single port robot, where you put like I was saying before, you put one incision into the user or into the patient, and then four little arms come out. And it was really hard for the surgeon to actually understand like where those arms are, because their camera was like one of those arms, and a lot of times the other arms were out of the view of the camera. So the first thing I did when I came there, I was trying to figure out like, oh, what's the best way to visualize that for the surgeon. And I was like, hey, did you ever try doing it like a mirror? Like you're looking in a rear view mirror. And they were like, oh, we never did try that. And I was like, okay, well, let's prototype that up. So I said, I think we could just actually prototype this right now. Like they were giving me the intro. So I was like, just get a mirror and just put a mirror down on the ground and like shoot a camera into the mirror with the robot being reflected. And then we would get the first person view and the third person view or like the mirror view of this thing. So they did that and sent me the video the next day. And then I put that into a little After Effects prototype. And then they were like, that works great. And it like just really felt like natural, like looking in a mirror. before it was like a top-down view of this thing. So all like the hands were occluding yourself, so you couldn't see where the hands were. But when it was like this, it's like, oh, I see. So anyway, that was one of the patents. They decided to patent that afterwards, and we're like, oh, this really works. And then that made it into the product, and they were able to protect that. And that is one of, I would say, the good patents. But like, yeah, but a lot of the ones, the most recent ones that I got were from Meta, and you know, they're all public now, so I can talk about them. But those ones were around we called it augmented calling. So it's like 3D calling and how you would connect with other people in these AR glasses that they're making on the, I guess, yeah, it's pretty public now that they call it Orion was the code name, and we'll see if they ever really show it. And they might show it at Connect this
September.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, a lot of these ones were around like, how do you capture a person and represent them so they look like themselves? How do you do that if you're on a mobile device and one person's on a mobile device and somebody else is on one of these glasses? And like, so there was a lot of weird little tricks that we did in order to like make it so that if you're pointing at a virtual thing, everybody who's on the call or in person with each other, it looks like they're pointing at the same thing. Or like if you're making eye contact with somebody, even if you're on a phone, like how can you make that work across these different devices? So a lot of those patents were around that. And I think there was some other ones around like manipulation. If you have a controller or like your hands and you're manipulating stuff, how do you interpret that on the computer side so that it feels natural and intuitive, and you get kind of this high level of information throughput between you and the computer. And so actually most of my patents I think are like that, mostly like input related. Like a lot of my Microsoft ones were, how can you make touchscreens feel more responsive? How do you, on Surface, it was like, how do you, like if you put an object down on the table, how do you lay out an interface around that so it is aware of the people around or the objects that are next to it? And yeah, and then I guess at Magic Leap, some of it was more like visual design. And we did this thing called the Eclipse cursor. Let me see if I can find a quick video of it. For the people who are watching this in video formats, you can see it here, and you can edit out all my pauses and yeah, but like this is just, a very almost simple idea that like in augmented reality, you want to like limit the amount of augmentation you do so you can see the world as much as possible. So and it also has some power implications, like the more light you add to the display, the more power it can cost sometimes. So we were trying to find the most minimal visual that we could have that would allow, someone to see what they're targeting, have some feedback, but not interfere with what you're trying to target. So I came up with this idea of the eclipse cursor that would go behind objects and illuminate them from behind. So it would, allow you to see the form, but only when you needed it. Yeah, so that one was a patent, and like, yeah, and there are all these other crazy ones, like how do you show something along the edge of the field of view so you know that something, because the field of view of these devices are not as big as reality, that's for sure, and definitely not as big as VR. So here was like a prototype that we made showing this little like these little glints that would be on the edge of the field of view, trying to show you where stuff is around you, and almost like glasses, like if you're wearing glasses and you see a little glint from a bright light on the edge of your glasses, it's like that. But we're like, maybe we could have this virtual light cast on these glasses and show you that something's out there. Anyway, and there we did all sorts of crazy stuff, like, maybe they only appear in the eye that only appear on the right eye, on the right side. So there's, anyway, I get super deep into the design of these things, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, typically then some lawyer will be like, "Oh, we gotta protect that." And then yeah, depending on the company, then you get certain perks and whatnot. But some other ones, if you're contracting or like through Artifact, I wouldn't get any perks or benefits from Magic Leap or Intuitive Surgical. It's just kind of fun having your name out there, I guess. But it's even better if you actually own the patents, and then you can get money from them. But that's the job. People, we're in the idea industry, or at least I am. So I gotta sell these ideas, bring in the money.
Yeah, and I remember I shared, like, I repost one of the investor. There's a old post. If you dive in my LinkedIn, there was somebody who put all the investor, like around 200 top tier investor, and their email and what their company is, the contact information. So
Oh
I
yeah.
was thinking about, if I have an idea, for example, my immersive literature, I will do a cold email and email all those people. Yeah, so why not? I mean, and before I joined Founder University, it's from Jason Kaleknas, one of the top tier investor. He is currently host All In Podcast, which was considered to be the best, the top #1 podcast in the category, investment category. And I joined the camp. I can share with you. It's called Founder University. It's like a long time ago when I joined, I was cohort 3. Long time ago when I joined, it's like $500 just for a ticket, but it will reimburse if you show up every time. So at the end, I kind of get the money back. But I mean, it's pretty much, they will invest 25K to 125K and the group everybody together. So if you have ideas, definitely do that. And I really love that the teaching is that at the end you use Loom, LOOM. If you happen to know Loom, record a pitch that is less than 5 minutes and share to, for example, I had long time ago, I had one like a 5 minutes, like a pitch, like a 10 slides, and just very quickly go the entire ideas. And then, and investor read those and make it short and sweet. And I'm thinking about just like I don't want to say spamming, but like, and recently I listened to an audiobook. It's one of the very popular for investment. It's called, give me one sec. It's called, let me see my audiobook. This is what I'm listening right now. It's called The Venture Mindset. The Venture Mindset.
Okay.
And the author said that the venture, the VC always prioritize open the email that is outside of organization. So cold emailing, it's very different from what we thought. Because, for example, he asked a lot of people, like, what do you think, what's the first thing that the VC afraid of? And the majority people said that, invest the company that failed. But actually what VC afraid is that they miss the opportunity of the big unicorn. So usually they invest 20 startups and only one works. And that one will cover all the lose. So instead of afraid of losing, so definitely, so after listening to all those like investor mindset, I start realize that I present myself as an opportunity, as a future of unicorn. And
Yeah.
I mean, I present to you, and VC wants to find something that is very early stage and with a big idea, and they want to get involved as soon as possible. Imagine if you saw like a 20K in Apple when it's just started.
Yeah.
You see how rich you will be right now. So I think maybe.
Well, you're giving me some inspiration. I wasn't wanting to do like a venture funded thing. But I do feel like I have a very large idea that could be super lucrative and almost like a platform for storytelling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to just go. I've been like on the startup train for the last year and a half, and it's been a lot. And it's startups are hard, and I sort of want to, like, I could just keep doing that and just like let's and diversify a little bit, maybe work with multiple startups. Or just go crawl up into a ball and work on some research for a while. Like, which also sounds kind of fun for different reasons. But I like, anyway. So I gotta, right now, I have maybe like 5 or 6 different things that are on my horizon, and I have to now figure out what the real thing is. Or maybe I can do multiple. Maybe I can kind of mix and match and put some of them together, which would be fun. But anyway, I do need to go. I think my niece's birthday party has started, so we got to drive out there and go jump in the water with her, I think.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we definitely want you to get on the party on time. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. We release episodes each week. If you enjoy this conversation, check our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Support us by giving us a follow and 5-star rating, or subscribe to our channel and give us this video a like. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Nice.
Thank you.
See ya.